Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for October the 12th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But over the weekend, we got some fantastic news about Ghost of Tsushima. It looks like one of this year's biggest games is going to be getting a bit of a boost. In fact, a game boost, bringing it up to 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5. Samurai action-adventure Ghost of Tsushima will reportedly use the PlayStation 5's Game Boost function to boost its performance up to 60 frames per second. In a tweet shared by developer Sucker Punch, the team also confirmed that Ghost of Tsushima will be playable on PS5 on day one via backward compatibility, as well as be able to transfer your save from PS4 to pick up where you left off. Quote, PS5 owners playing with Game Boost will see an extra option to allow frame rates up to 60 FPS, and while loading speeds on the PS4 are already great, just wait until you see them on the PlayStation 5, a second tweet added. In case you missed it, an upcoming update to Ghost of Tsushima is due to roll out on Friday, October the 16th, and introduce New Game Plus, co-op multiplayer, and more. Ghost of Tsushima's version 1.1 update is free for all players and leads with an online cooperative multiplayer experience known as Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Once unlocked via the PlayStation Store, players can access Legend Story missions designed for 2 players, as well as 4-player survival missions. Sucker Punch says a 3-part raid for 4 players is also on the way and is expected in the weeks following 1.1's release. Very good news, and this is what I want to see more of on the PlayStation 5. And I feel like more of this kind of experience is coming from other titles, it just hasn't been officially confirmed or officially announced, because Game Boost is a very important part of the PlayStation 5, in the same way that enhancements on the Xbox Series X are important for this upcoming generation, because the launch lineup for both consoles is relatively lacking. That means that games that are very big for this current generation that we're in now will continue to have a good bit of life for at least the next year as the new roster of games fills out across the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So on the Xbox side of things, automatically games see enhancements across the board. From original Xbox to Xbox One, you are going to be seeing some boost, some more than others, but you will be seeing an improvement. For the PlayStation 5, it sounds like Game Boost is going to be doing something similar. However, on the official PlayStation FAQ, not all games will be impacted by Game Boost. It's kind of a situational approach. So, for instance, with Ghost of Tsushima, clearly Sucker Punch built this game with the PlayStation 5's launch cycle in mind. They have the unlocked frame rate. That way the PlayStation 5 can boost it up. And they have other compatibility considerations in place to ensure that it is a good experience regardless of where you are playing. But this is a very important one because there are probably a lot of people like me where Ghost of Tsushima came out and I thought, hey, that looks really fun, but I'm going to wait until there's some kind of enhancement on the PlayStation 5 to jump on board and start experiencing that one. Because why would I play something in the summer of 2020 when I could play it in the fall of 2020 and get an experience that's much better? And so I think that Ghost of Tsushima is going to be seeing a bit of a resurgence. And now in terms of marketing, you need to be able to promote this as a feature. I don't know if that means putting a sticker on all of the boxes for Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know if that means putting a specific banner graphic label on the PlayStation Store that shows which games have Game Boost enabled on the PlayStation 5. But that's a very important distinction to make for people whenever they are choosing what games they want to buy, because I would want to know what games are going to really utilize the PlayStation 5 that were on the PlayStation 4 generation. And Ghost of Tsushima clearly is going to be one of those. The Last of Us Part 2, please let that be a thing. Please let Game Boost utilize, oh man, like really. But the way that I see it, any of the biggest games on the PlayStation 4 are probably going to be utilizing this to some degree. Again, that has not been confirmed, but hopefully in the weeks leading up to the PlayStation 5, we will get more info on which games actually support Game Boost. But it's time to start talking about this stuff and kind of start pimping it, because we're less than a month away from the launch of the next generation consoles in a year that just continues to inch forward day by day. But some bad news, the PlayStation Store will stop selling PS3, PSP, and Vita games through web and mobile. The PlayStation Store experience is about to receive an overhaul soon, as Sony makes plans to limit what is available to purchase on the web and mobile versions of its digital store. In an email sent to PlayStation development partners, which IGN has independently verified, Sony says that starting on October the 19th for web and October the 28th for mobile, certain digital products will no longer be available for purchase. This includes PlayStation 3 games and add-ons, PSP games and add-ons, PlayStation Vita games and add-ons, apps, themes, and avatars. Sony is also doing away with the Your Wishlist feature, and any games currently on the wishlist will be removed. Going forward, customers will still be able to purchase PS3, PSP, and Vita titles from the PlayStation Store, but only directly from the system. So you will need a PS3 or a Vita to purchase any of the previous gen titles, and you will need a PS4 to purchase apps, themes, and avatars. Sony assured its partners that customers will keep content from older gen systems they have previously purchased, as well as any existing PS4 apps, themes, and avatars. Whether this move comes ahead of a next-gen overhaul or something else, IGN has reached out to Sony for further clarification. Of course, this is something that is probably considered to be a long time coming, but not in this way. The web and mobile versions of the PlayStation Store do need an overhaul. It needs to be a much more streamlined experience, and that goes for the console as well, the PlayStation 4. Of course, PlayStation 5 UI still relatively up in the air, but for the PlayStation 4, even the store itself on the console is very clunky. Now, as somebody who enjoys the history of games, and as somebody who enjoys the legacy that an entire generation of systems leaves behind, this bothers me because the PS3 and Vita stores are relatively clunky, and on top of that, once they are abandoned, how do you find the game that you want? There are many games that don't actually show up on the actual storefront on the Vita. So for that console specifically, a lot of people on the Vita subreddit are beginning to gather lists of games that aren't available on the actual storefront on the console itself, and they are now having to go through and purchase all of them, or at least find some way to find them later, so that they can go back and play these games that are available on this piece of hardware. You shouldn't limit yourself like that. So, with that being said, it's an unfortunate reality that Sony just won't continue to support the PlayStation 3, the PSP, and the Vita well into the future. The only way that the Vita has been mentioned by Sony in relatively the past few years is either by saying that you are still going to be able to produce limited run games on the carts that we have, and number two, it is going to have remote play, because every game has that remote play icon, whether it's on the digital store or actually on the box itself at GameStop, Walmart, Target, etc. You can still do remote play. Don't know too many people that do, but you can do it. Now, with all of that being said, the Your Wishlist feature. You need to have the Steam wishlist, and the Steam wishlist works in this way for those that might not be familiar. Basically, you add a game to your wish list, and whenever it goes on sale, you automatically get an email notification that that game is on sale, and you get to see how much it actually is, and you get to see the percentage that it has been marked down. That is how you use a wish list, because traditionally, I don't really look at my friend's wish list and pick something out for their birthday. I use it for me because I'm greedy. I want to know when the games that I want are going on sale. So it needs to be implemented in some kind of way that you can monitor what the prices of these games are, so that you can get a good deal. And of course, when you can get a good deal, you're more willing to spend money. And when you're more willing to spend money, they make more money. That's simply how it works. So hopefully some kind of revamp is going to be coming. Unfortunately, it is going to be at the cost of all of this content that has been on the PlayStation Store for the better part of the last, 15 years or so? But super bummer to see that all these games are basically being hidden from one of the mainline experiences, and you have to go through their respective console of choice. But hey, it is what it is. Now, we also got some news over the weekend that is even more crushing. Amazon confirms it will shut down its flagship shooter Crucible months after its release, but it wasn't really released. It was, wow, this is weird. All right, let's dive into it. Amazon's flagship team shooter Crucible has officially ceased development just 5 months after launch. The move, announced on the game's official website, follows a slow start for the free-to-play game, which has typically struggled to attract more than double-figure viewers on streaming platform Twitch, which its parent company owns. According to Steam Spy, Crucible had a peak concurrent player count of less than 100 on Friday. Crucible is the Twitch owner's first big stride into game software as part of what it's said to be an investment of hundreds of millions of dollars into game creation. In its final website update, Crucible's developer said it would offer a full refund for any purchases made and transition its development team to focus on New World, the MMO now scheduled to release early next year. Crucible's servers will stay up for custom games until noon PST on Monday, November the 9th. Quote, "We very much appreciate the way that our fans have rallied around our efforts, and we have loved seeing your responses to the changes we have made over the last few months, but ultimately we did not see a healthy, sustainable future ahead of Crucible," Amazon Games said in a statement. In the next few weeks, we'll be hosting a final playtest and community celebration, both in-game and in our official Discord. After that point, we'll be disabling matchmaking, although you'll still be able to play Crucible through custom games features. It added, "Thank you as always for being part of our community. This has been a labor of love and we are grateful for the time we got to spend on Planet Crucible with you," end quote. Earlier this month, Amazon officially announced its cloud gaming service Luna. When it launches, Luna will offer a full library of games behind a subscription service, plus Twitch integration and support for special Amazon game controllers. So, very strange development cycle this one had. Number one, if you look at this header image that they have here at VGC, this is any team-based shooter that you have seen in the past 5 years. You have shooter army man, small robot, beefy lady, small animal, big tank man. That's essentially the mix for any Overwatch, any kind of, what was the other one that was competing with Overwatch that was just set down by Ubisoft? Regardless, you see this and you know what it is and you've seen it and you don't really want to play it. And Crucible was that kind of game. Now, it technically launched in the spring, then they pulled it back into closed beta. That's what was strange to begin with. Then after an entire summer and relatively half of a fall of development, now they're just shutting it down. And I understand that every team has their first foray into the world of game development, and I understand that it never goes exactly as planned, but this was just a bungled mess for the most part. But I wish the team the best of luck, of course. New World has been relatively well received. I know that there were a couple of playtests a few months back that people kind of enjoyed, so hopefully they will be getting a big MMO burst into the world soon enough. But we will see what happens with the team at New World. However, the team at Crucible is wrapping up their work a little bit prematurely. Now, one game that is doing incredibly well is Genshin Impact. It has recouped development cost in 2 weeks, grossing over $100 million. MiHoYo's Genshin Impact has crossed over $100 million since it launched digitally 2 weeks ago, or I should say globally, but also digitally. A huge global success for a game that came out of China. Data from several sources confirms that the game has made upwards of $100 million in 12 days. The game's development budget was reported to be in the range of $100 million, so at this point it looks like MiHoYo's has recouped that cost, and it might just be making money. Free-to-play, open-world, cel-shaded RPG Genshin Impact launched on September the 28th and has become a very popular game in Japan, Korea, and China, though it's not without its fans in the Americas and Europe. It is not without critics or controversy either. Prominent Asian games industry commentator Daniel Amat expects that the game will soon have made more than 1 billion RMB, the Chinese currency. That is nearly 150 million US Dollars a mod? They have a typo here in the PC Gamer article, and it says that's nearly 150 million US a mod. Oh my gosh, that's so many a mod. But regardless, they mean US dollars. Ahmad, a business analyst with firm Nico Partners, said the Genshin Impact was, quote, without a doubt the most successful launch for an original IP from a Chinese dev, end quote. That echoes thoughts around the internet last week that Genshin Impact was the biggest ever global launch from a Chinese developer. Genshin Impact is free to play, but funded by a system of in-game gacha-style gambling loot boxes. Our Steven Messner called it the dark horse of 2020 at PC Gamer just after it launched. It's an open-world RPG with a lot of appeal and a nice, cel-shaded graphical style, as well as a heap of stuff to do. It seems like a good game, especially at the price of free, but it's definitely one to avoid if you have poor impulse control in free games. The Washington Post published an editorial on the subject, saying that it was gambling real-world cash in a casino where the house always wins. This week's PC Gamer podcast delved deeper into why Genshin Impact is so compelling despite its free-to-play roots. You can read that if you would like, or listen to it on your podcast service of choice. Very impressive game, and it's worth noting that I'm talking about this game from the perspective of an American. So around the world, it's probably much more popular, but I think that content creators really did this game a justice by calling it Breath of the Wild anime. That's essentially what this game is. And that got a lot of people on board. I downloaded it and I played it for about half an hour, and it's just way too anime for me, not really into it. But I understand the draw of it, because it is this giant open world that is completely free, and it does feel like a AAA game. Did I mention it's free? So congratulations to the team at MiHoYo. Of course, this game has a very bright future ahead of it. I believe it is coming to or already launched on mobile devices, one of the two, which is going to make it an even more impressive experience. But ultimately, Genshin Impact continuing to dominate around the world. And to round out today's show, we have some news from the Mixer, Twitch, Facebook, Gaming, YouTube front. Twitch seems to have picked up most of Mixer's streamers. Streamers seem to have flocked to Twitch from Mixer after the Microsoft-owned live streaming service announced plans to shut down in June. A new report shows that Twitch's share of hours broadcast on major live streaming platforms jumped by over 14 percentage points this quarter, taking away the nearly identical just over 14% market share that Mixer previously held. With Mixer out of the picture, Twitch ended up with 91.1% of all hours spent streaming on these platforms between June and September, according to a new report from Streamlabs and Stream Hatchet that looked at streaming activity on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Gaming. Facebook Gaming grew slightly during that same time period to 3.4% from 2.4%, and YouTube shrunk slightly to 5.5% from 6.7%. That Twitch won out is particularly notable because Facebook made a serious effort to pick up Mixer's streamers. It partnered with Mixer to help streamers get set up on the new platform, and Mixer started advertising Facebook Gaming during its final month online. Mixer's website still forwards to Facebook Gaming today. Evidently, that was not enough to convince Mixer streamers to pick up yet another underdog in the streaming space. Hours streamed is a useful metric for determining where streamers are spending their time, but it's not necessarily the metric that matters. These platforms are primarily competing for viewership, and in that area, Twitch actually lost some ground. The report now puts Twitch at 63.6% market share, down from 67.6%. That should be particularly concerning because both YouTube and Facebook Gaming grew this quarter. Mixer made up only 1.4% of hours streamed, so these services are growing at a faster pace than Twitch. Streaming viewership has exploded this year, thanks in part to people being stuck inside and looking for new things to watch. The report estimates that total viewership across all three services was 7.46 billion hours last quarter, up from 3.89 billion the year before. That's a lot of growth. So this is interesting, and I do believe that the report is pretty accurate here that Twitch picked up the majority of Mixer's streamers, because Mixer was a platform that was built around gaming. It had gaming at its center. Everything about it was a combination of what Twitch was bringing, where it was a place to share your gameplay, and then they had an entire rotation of shows that kind of felt like a G4 in a way. It was a very gamer culture focused approach. Facebook Gaming feels very corporate, and there is less trust in Facebook. And on top of that, especially in the election cycle that we're in right now, and with the uphill battle that Facebook is fighting to try and feel relatable to the younger generation. People don't want to stream on Facebook. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't want Grandma Harriet watching me play Genshin Impact on Facebook Gaming. I don't want my family to know that I'm there, and even the marginal, small little iota of a chance that they could find me is gross in my mind. Now, I have streamed on Facebook Gaming before, and it's a fine experience. The discoverability is incredible, and if you want to go all in, you certainly can grow a community over there. I'm not trying to dog out the service at all, but for the majority of people, Twitch is the natural way to go because it is so focused on that gamer culture. It is so focused, and on top of that, it is just the place to be right now. Whether it's a music stream, a just chatting stream, the conversation is around Twitch, whether you like it or not. Now, YouTube gaming is definitely picking up some steam. I think, personally, this is my hot take, that the majority of that growth over the summer is probably due to Among Us as well, because that game does very well on YouTube, and of course, YouTube has acquired some pretty big streamers as well. So that could have something to do with it too. But ultimately, Twitch seems to have picked up most of Mixer's streamers, and that is to the surprise of relatively few people. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about everything we talked about here today. What stories caught your eye, but specifically, will you be playing Ghost of Tsushima on the PlayStation 5 with Game Boost bringing the game up to 60 frames per second? Would love to hear your thoughts. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.